Hello, and welcome to Stage, Screen, and In Between. I'm Helen. Today, as my special guest, I have Rick Eberle, who is a public relations and marketing specialist. He has a dynamic business and personality, and what he does is help people get to the next level and get their name out there. Isn't that right, Rick?
Yeah, it's a really great way of putting it. We're an agency that thrives by taking the little guy and making them big guys. Absolutely. Yeah, we've been working in this area and across the international landscape for about 25 years now.
Yeah. Now, you yourself started as a singer and a musician, right, with your own business, and that's why you tend to gear yourself towards musicians, right?
I think that artists in general can kind of relate to me and my business a little bit more than some cookie cutter agency that is out there working with whoever and whatever for a buck. I mean, we're musicians and artists here, so we can kind of relate to you and your struggle as a musician or an actor or a chef or someone who's trying to brand yourself, because we've been there, we've had success, we know what to do and what not to do, and we try and take that wisdom and impart it upon the people that are part of our portfolio.
Yeah, and you had touched on that also, because you do artists and musicians, festivals and conventions, companies, organizations, venues, restaurants, chefs, celebrities, athletes. I think you touch on about just everything. But you mentioned something important. It is about personal relationships, networking, who you know. You have a very one-on-one kind of a business. You're not just one of the crowd, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't just, send out messages and on Facebook and in social media and then call yourself an influencer. I mean, you have to be out there in the trenches, making the relationships, but making genuine relationships. You also don't want to be out there, look at me, because that's going to show up. People are not stupid. You have to try and do for others so that it comes back to you. I mean, and you don't want to do it for the wrong reasons. You just want to try to be fair and work closely with a lot of people in the different businesses that you're trying to touch upon, because in that way people are going to want to help you and you can help them in turn. And that's the oldest trick in the book, so to speak. I mean, that's where business started before computers and phones even. I mean, it was two people shaking hands and making a deal. And so that still exists in today's world. Even with the internet, it's still about one-on-one, mano-a-mano, and that's kind of how we've been able to grow and thrive.
How important is for somebody to brand themselves? And what is a brand? Can you be a little more specific and help us out and explain what is branding?
Branding would be, I am Oreo, I am Nestle's, I am Mr. Clean. I mean, instead of talking like you're working for a company, you become the company. And that's actually the reason I named my company Rick Eberle Public Relations. It's not an ego trip. It's more about looking at the way that the landscape is today in society. And so when you want to try to be an ambassador for different things, be an influencer, any of these target names that you can come up with, these catchphrases, at the end of the day, it's about people knowing who you are and following your word and taking your word as something that's credible and that's something that they want to learn about. So in my case, I've worked now with a number of film festivals, music conventions, authors, actors, venues, etc. And so when people follow me on social media, they're expecting to hear about those sorts of things. And so I've become now a credible source, if you will, not only to the media, but to the people that are around. And so branding would be doing just that. Now people know that Rick Eberle is a guy to go to, or the rickeberle.com. You could go to my website and find out what's happening in the tri-state area, for instance. You can find out what brands are hot. You can find out what film festivals are coming up, what shows are coming to the space at Westbury or the Emporium. It's really a multi-tiered approach these days you have to take. And so when you're out there, your strongest asset is yourself. The strongest asset to any business these days is human resources. And so if you take yourself as a human resource, you're going to be successful.
So now you had touched on something you had mentioned about film festivals. I know that you handled the Long Island International Film Expo, who's having Ed Asner, as a matter of fact, as their special honoree, right? Absolutely. He's getting the Lifetime Achievement Award, I believe. You also do Long Beach International Film Festival and Gold Coast. So tell me how you got involved with the festivals.
A gentleman by the name of Stephen Marcuccio, who owned a club that I used to run called the Downtown in Farmingdale. We booked Jewel and Donovan and Michael McDonald and number of different artists. Maroon 5 before they got big, Fall Out Boy. It was a short era because venues are tough to kind of sustain themselves. But long story short, Steven and I stayed friends, and he opened a venue called it was a hair salon because he was also in the hair business. But we were doing shows on the pond in Roslyn, and so Steven had the ladies from the Gold Coast at the time Great Neck Art Center come down to this launch event for their festival, and they were looking for more exposure the next year, and Steven obviously knew me from working with his venues and his different companies and suggested me, and I started working with Regina Gill over there, who's been a really strong influence on me in a very positive way. I look up to Regina. She's a really amazing woman, and her whole team, Caroline Sarikoff, and now they have Lauren Wagner over there. They're doing a really, really great job. Ronnie Berger, of course, in making arts on Long Island especially thrive. And so I took that, I saw that, and I was friends with Elise DiStefano, who's News 12 anchor, we've kind of come up in the business together. I've been doing it for a while, and so she recommended to Ingrid that we connect. So Ingrid and I got food at the diner one day and hit it off. We're both, similar personalities. I love Ingrid. She's awesome. And then, her and Craig, and they do the Long Beach International Film Festival, so I started working with them. And Deb, I've known for a number of years, and so it's kind of like, this is what I do now, so it only makes sense.
Deborah Markowitz is the Nassau County Film Commissioner, right? As well as, Henry and Ann from the Belmore movies. Yes.
The funny thing about Henry and Ann also, and Deb, is that I'm from Merrick originally, which is on the South Shore, and we used to go to Belmore movies when I was growing up, and I even had bands play at Belmore movies years ago as part of.
Now, what's the name of your band? Was Iridescence? Was that it?
Yeah, we're still around. Iridescence. We're actually playing still. We just played Rockwood Music Hall in New York City. A few years ago, we played Irving Plaza. We're still around. We play a few big gigs a year, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and what is your? Is it oldies? Is it contemporary music? And what instrument do you play?
I play guitar and sing, and you can reach us at iridescenceiRideSense.com. It's with my sister. She plays bass and sings. I play guitar and sing. We've been doing it forever. We've had songs on Nickelodeon, Drake and Josh, iCarly, Zoe 101 on MTV, Road Rules, Boiling Points. We've, around the turn of the century, we're touring. We opened for Sugar Ray, for the Gin Blossoms, Spin Doctors, and music has been my life, so we really still play, we still write, and you can check us out online, and there's some shows coming up, and also some new recordings.
Who do you think are some of the up and coming artists right now?
Bands I really like, Memphis Crawl is phenomenal. That's like Maddie is like the next incarnation of Jim Morrison, with little Chris Robinson thrown in there, and the band is just really tight and gritty, and I love them. Mark Newman has been around forever, and he's phenomenal player, blues player, and also Americana. He's a really good writer. He's a sideman. He does everything. Dave Diamond Band is another guy he plays with Mark and some stuff. There's a band I really like called Circadian Rhythm. Midnight Mob is really cool. There's literally like 50 different bands that on the Island right now that I would book. Right. For original bands even. So, if you're looking for artists and music for your films or anything like that, Long Island is the place to be.
Does the person's backstory influence you at all? Like, how do you select who you want to deal with? If somebody knows, like, let's say they're a veteran or they had some hard times and overcame them, what is your draw? Other than talent, because at some point, you can only take so many people on, does their story count?
Yeah, of course. I think that at the end of the day, it's everything that's involved in someone's brand, if you will, that is intriguing to us. I mean, we are a networking only, referral based business. We don't sell ourselves just to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, because like you said, it's a business that we do because we have expertise, and we can't just take anybody and try to do something with them. They have to have some of the different finer points of the business kind of locked down before they come see us. But that being said, talent really is the number one thing. I have to be moved by their performance, by their music, by their vibe, by their story. It could be any of these things.
Let me ask you, because you also do chefs, do you have to like their food?
Yes. Well, no, I mean, you know what the funny thing is that I guess you have to be able to tolerate their food, just like with their music. Sometimes it's because music is sometimes subjective. So as long as if someone's doing something that's out of the box and they're doing something unique, and you don't necessarily get it with your pop ears, you can't necessarily say, oh, okay, they're not ready to do it or they're not ready to go. So I have people I lean on in certain scenarios where I'm like, this band is interesting to me, or this film is interesting to me, but I don't know. I'm not know if I'm really getting it, and I'll go. I have a full staff, and I have people that specialize in different things as well. So I'm not the smartest man in the room, and I don't pretend to be, and I want to see. That's why I think also I succeed is I'm all about collaboration. It's all about collaboration in today's environment in any business. You can't be living in a box, or you will die. You can't be trying to fight your competitors. You just have to be better than them by nature. I mean, you have to collaborate and work together and coexist, and I think that's the way that the new entertainment business works. Yeah. It probably always worked that way, but people at times have let the big E word, the ego, get involved in everyday dealings, and I think that's kind of like the kiss of death.
Now, how important are slogans like Long Island International Film Expo says, the festival where the stars come out, and it happened to be voted one of the top 25 coolest film festivals in the United States. But how important are slogans, and do you help people come up with them, and is it only some people get a slogan? How does that work with the slogan?
I mean, we can do that sort of stuff because we are, in a lot of ways, a full-service boutique agency. But I think sometimes that stuff's left to like the ad guys, the madmen, the guys to come up with the Roto-Rooter, whatever. I mean, any of those kind of slogans, that's not really necessarily our game. We're more of an agency where we're working on placing people, but it's still a fun thing to do. So, I mean, if that's something that someone wanted us to be involved with, that's something we could potentially work with them on. A lot of times, there's different things that we do that we farm out too. So there's things on our site where we're like, yeah, we can do that, and then we find the right person in the business that does it. We're not necessarily doing it in-house. We are working with, like I said, collaborating with freelancers and people that we know are the top of the line. Same thing with design. We don't necessarily have designers that are 24 hours working for me, but when you ask me for a design project, we can get that done. You want to do an ad agency campaign where you want to buy ads on the TV and radio, no problem. I have the best guys that I work with. So it's all part of a campaign.
Yeah, well, you also do like event planning, right? So what would something like, if somebody's having an event, are you the person that coordinates getting the press and the media there, getting the word out, or is it soup to nuts? Like I have the balloons and I have the flowers on the table. Where's your limit?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I'm not an event planner. I know some great event planners, and I work closely with them.
So you would collaborate with them?
Well, but like we were saying, so normally what would happen is a venue or a facility or a conference or a festival would come to me and say, okay, we already have all this stuff. We need you to promote it. We need you to get celebrities there. We need you to run the red carpet. We need you to get media there. We need you to do social. We need you to give us staffing. We need you to do suggestions on music or suggestions on people to be involved on a food side. I mean, so we have a lot of resources on our end. I like to say, we know a lot of horses and we know a lot of places to make them drink, but we put them together, and if it happens, it happens.
What's one of the most exciting things that has happened to you during your career, either with the band or with this public relations business? So name something exciting that happened. Maybe something that happened that you didn't think was going to come to pass. Tell me.
I mean, it's been really exciting over the last year, specifically the last 2 years. I mean, a few years ago, was working as the promotion director for 94.3 The Shark out on Long Island. I was getting here and there intermittent radio gigs, doing some social media stuff for them on site, but it wasn't necessarily what I wanted to be doing full time. So I just took the gamble and I started this agency full time. I was always doing PR and stuff on the side, but long story short, I mean, in the last few years, I've been working with Trey Songz Liquor. So I mean, we've been doing some really interesting and fun stuff there. This past year, I worked the red carpet at the Playboy Mansion for the Grammy after party.
Oh, that's very Very cool.
So that was pretty wild. I got there and they needed somebody to help out at the end of the carpet. I was involved in general, and the lady Billy Mitchell that was running it, and Madonna Williams, who brought me in, they were like, "Oh, Rick, you do all these red carpets. You're in." I'm like, "Well, okay." I was coming.
Did you get to meet Hugh Hefner?
No, but who was there? Carl Weathers, which is the guy who played Apollo Creed in Rocky.
Yes.
So, and like Chuck Liddell, who's like the big UFC guy.
Did you get to swim in the pool with any of the bunnies?
There were some people doing that, but no, it was actually more of a networking party. There was obviously girls there, but it was more about the liquor brands that were being displayed, the artists that they were being recognized, and so forth.
Yeah, I see that you've worked with some people that I happen to know, Meredith O'Connor, and she's very good because she also has an anti-bullying campaign. So that's somebody that kind of is not only a very talented singer, but has a backstory because she was actually bullied herself, and she kind of swung that over into a message for people, to try to help the world a little bit. Don't you think it's kind of important to help the world while you're doing things?
I think anybody who's different and unique has a story of being bullied. I mean, anybody who has something...
Or they were the bully, and they're reformed now.
Or you've done both. I mean, a lot of times the bully was the bullied, or the bully is the person that is hurt inside, so they're projecting that on another person. I mean, I went through some of that myself when I was growing up, and I guess probably on both sides. I might have at one point been the person that was being bullied, and then another time I might have been a guy laughing along to something that was happening to someone, being hazed in a football game or something. I mean, you forget of how many different ways that can take shape. When only looking back, sometimes you say, "Oh, maybe that wasn't really nice."
Another young up-and-comer that I happen to know because I had judged a talent contest out in the Hamptons years ago, Jenna Rose. And she comes with a whole dancing troupe, right? She's really amazing and a go-getter, and she started at a very young age, didn't she?
Yeah, both Jenna and Meredith were on my TV show, Rick's Rising Stars, which airs on Verizon Fios 1. We've done over 100 episodes. It's just focus on local artists performing at Revolution. But I actually judged a contest that Jenna was in too for Donna Drake at the Huntington Arts Council way back. She probably was 10 years old. So it's good to see Long Island artists. I mean, there's a lot of amazing artists in that side of things. If you want to talk about Donnie Klang and Matthew Laporte, what they're doing with the Loft Sound Studio, they had Madison Beer that got signed to Scooter Braun, and that's Justin Bieber's label. They have Marissa Ann, who's a phenomenal singer, who's going to be at the Long Beach International Film Festival. The Janes, which is a phenomenal girl group, like Fifth Harmony, rather. Fifth Dimension. That remember them?
I was going to ask you. Speaking of the Fifth Dimension, how important is it to be youthful? I mean, is age a barrier? Do you believe in ageism? What do you think about that?
I think it all depends on what you're trying to do. I think as you get older, you need to change your game. If you're trying to be, like a pop sex symbol and you're like in your 50s, a lot of people are not going to, compute with that. Yeah. So, I mean, there's plenty of artists that continue to thrive in the business, but you always have to be recreating yourself. You can't stay in your niche unless you want to just go to Vegas and do that. You can do that too. I mean, that's your thing. Either you evolve or you go to Vegas. Yeah. I mean, there's money in Vegas. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's.
I just saw that Wayne Newton is opening up his mansion for people as a museum to come and see. You could see his horses and you could see his costumes, almost like an Elvis type of thing, right? So, is there anything that you want? Number one, where can you be reached? And number two, is there any kind of a message that you want to leave off with that could help people, guide them to you too? But any way you could help people with just some kind of inspiration?
It gets really hot on Long Island in the summertime, as you can see, as I'm slowly melting. You can check me out at rickeberle.com, RICKEB as in boy, ERLE.com. You can check me out on Twitter at Rick Eberle, Instagram at Rick Eberle. Facebook is Rick Eberle NY because I made one page that something happened and I couldn't use it anymore. So it's Rick Eberle NY and also Rick Eberle PR for the page, the Facebook page. And that's basically it. I mean, you can go to our website and you can contact us and you can come to our events, and you can, if you're an artist or producer or brand ambassador that you want to connect with us, you can certainly check out the website. Email me, rick@rickeberle.com. And wisdom to impart. I mean, I think I imparted a lot of wisdom. I dropped some knowledge, some science, English, all that stuff.
And some names.
Yeah, well, but that's, come on, namedropper.com. You know, me and Trey were hanging out, songs, you know, and then I was, when I was out in LA, me and Eddie Money, we went out to lunch and we were hanging out.
Yeah.
That's the name dropper. But no, I was doing that kind of
I
stuff.
know, and you know that I worked with Eddie Money.
Right.
I was his mother, but as a teenager, come on. Everybody would say, you played his mother? And I always have to say, as a teenager. But he still got it, and he's still a very
We love
talented
him.
guy, and we love the show. And what a lovable guy that Eddie Money's something
He's
else.
charming.
And we're still waiting for 2 tickets to Paradise to hit Broadway.
Yes, we are.
Don't forget me. And thank you so much, for Rick, for joining me, and best of luck in all that you do. I know you're very hot on Long Island and throughout the New York and United States.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.